Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Rangers Review morning briefing for Friday, the 20th of February. How are we, the 20th of February already? This season seems to be running away from us. I'm your host this morning, Blair Malloy, standing in for Derek. Those of you who do enjoy Derek hosting in the morning, never fear, he will be back next week. I know I've guided you through a few of the pods this week, but our usual host, Derek, will be back in the big chair come Monday. I'm delighted to say I'm joined this Friday afternoon for what is certain to be some fiery debates, topics going on by Jonny McFarlane. Jonny, how are you?
Very good, Blair. Excited to be back on again. I think this is the first time I've been on 2 days in a row in many a year. So, yeah, looking forward to it.
I'm also joined as well by Stevie Clifford of the Rangers Review and Four Lads Had a Dream. Stevie, how are you getting on this Friday morning?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm good. Good to be on. Always nice to be talking about Rangers. So, yeah. Looking forward to it.
Always nice to be talking about Rangers when things are going well. That's always a great part of this. Before we get into today's robust discussion, a word for our podcast sponsors, Willows Fencing, the Glasgow-based fencing company you can trust. For 10% off, you can put in the code in our bio. They are the guys to go to if you need any fencing work done at any time of the year, not even just the winter, any time, go to these guys. So, before we get started, you may have seen on social media last night that the Rangers Review is going live for the first time since 2023. We are doing a live show in Edmondson House, of all places. Sure to be an incredible venue to do our first live show in 3 years. This will be my first show with the team, so I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. I'll be there with Stevie, with Derek, with Joshua and with Chris. Jonny, it's certain to be a great occasion for everybody involved.
Yeah, absolutely. It's available only to subscribers to the website right now. So that is until Monday at midday, and then it is available to the general public. So first of all, it's just that early subscriber access with a discount. There's a discount code for our subscribers on the website at the moment. It's right there at the very top of the website, so you can't miss it. Go in there, click the link, and you'll be able to buy the tickets with your special discount. But that only lasts until Monday at midday. And then, of course, it'll go out to the rest of the general public after that. And it will go back to the full price of £22.50 per ticket. So I think it will be a night of great fun. We had a whale of a time the last time. It was absolutely brilliant. Loads of people there. Barry Ferguson, obviously, as the guest. There will be plenty of surprises, plenty of special guests, plenty of banter and Rangers chat and everything you would associate with a Rangers Review pod. So a really good night will be had by all on that night, and we hope to see you all there.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. As I mentioned there, this is my first time as part of a live show with all the guys, so I'm sure it'll be an excellent evening, great atmosphere. Stevie, I know you are no stranger to the live arena, so I'm looking forward to sharing a stage with you and hearing some stories and entertaining the crowd on the evening.
Yeah, playing Edmondson House is a joy, to be honest. So, I'm really looking forward to it. It should be good fun. A lot of people in the comments online asking why is Jonny not playing the live show with us. A lot of people disappointed he's not going to be with us. Maybe he will.
I will be there, Stevie. Don't worry about that. It's just, because I'm not a on every day force anymore. I'm just nipping in and out. The three guys that are here every day they're the front men. They're the big stars. So they're on the original advertising logos, but we'll all be there too. Don't worry about that.
Well, there you go. Everybody that was worried about Jonny not being there, there's your answer, folks. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to it. As I said, it's always fun. Let's hope when we do it, there's reason to be happy and we're in a good place on the pitch. That will certainly help the atmosphere. It could be that we're really going for titles and things, so let's hope that's the case. Definitely going to be a fun night. It always is, and it should be lots of fun.
Absolutely. The great deal of consternation caused online last night when Johnny's face wasn't on the poster and a lot of people were scrambling thinking that he wasn't going to be involved. But I'm glad, thanks Stevie for putting that to
Thanks
bed.
to my
As all,
family for that. They was always appreciated the support, you know.
Those burner accounts were working overtime to make sure that you were getting the praise you deserved. Yeah, so like we said, they are available only to subscribers at the minute in this pre-sale link. Those tickets will go on sale next week. So yeah, make sure you come along and join us. It's certain to be a great night for all involved. And as Stevie said, hopefully there's still plenty to play for at that time, and Rangers will be going strong. So we'll get right into our first topic today. I was actually a little bit worried that we might not have much to talk about, given there is no midweek game this week. But obviously, it came out yesterday that the Old Firm ticket allocation had been settled. Now, this game in the Scottish Cup against Celtic, it was decided yesterday that Celtic would receive 7,500 tickets for the game at Ibrox on March the 8th. Now, that essentially equates to the Broomloan stand. So the narrative from many Rangers fans online and many Rangers fans thinking that the 2,500 that was currently the arrangement would be enough. However, given the SFA's own rules on Scottish Cup ties, Celtic were entitled to claim up to 20% of the entire allocation, which could be the thick end of 10,000 tickets that Rangers would have had to give up. So here at the Rangers Review, we understand that Rangers and Celtic were strongly urged to basically sort this out amongst themselves so that the compliance officer wouldn't have to get involved, and thus a compromise has been reached. So Celtic will be getting 7,500 at Ibrox for that game in the Scottish Cup. So I'm really interested to get your thoughts on this. Obviously, in terms of taking up the Broomloan stand, it means that roughly 6,000 season ticket holders at Ibrox will be displaced for that game. Stevie, I'll start with you on this, just in a sort of broad sense. What are your initial reactions to that news that came out that Celtic were bringing 7,500 fans to Ibrox?
Well, disappointed for our own supporters. I don't want any of ours missing out, first of all, especially ones that have had season tickets and back to team. So that's a disappointment. But also, I think that the club were very much forced into this. Hands were held to the fire as such. Our feet were held to the fire, whatever the saying is. And, we had to sort it. Otherwise, others would have stepped in and we could have ended up with 10,000 fans in. So, listen, it is what it is. I don't have overly feeling either way. On a footballing side of it, go and win the game and make sure they enjoy their day out thoroughly by seeing us put them out the cup. And I believe we can do that. I don't think that they're in a good place, particularly on the pitch. And I feel that we have the momentum and we are starting to see bits and pieces. So from a footballing point of view, I'm quite happy with it. It doesn't bother me in that regard. So that's our challenge, to make sure that they don't enjoy their day out. With regards to our own fans and that, then yeah, it's disappointing. It's disappointing from our point of view. But as I said, very much the club were held to account. So there's not much we can do about it. That's the rules. They are entitled to it. I would sincerely hope that if the fixtures reversed in the coming seasons, that Rangers have the same displayed back to us as well. So yeah, it is what it is, unfortunately, Blair, and I just don't see what the club were meant to do or what other things we could have done. So hopefully those that are displaced or whatever manage to get tickets elsewhere in the stadium and all our supporters are accommodated.
In that article yesterday that Chris wrote, he mentions that discussions have been taking place about this what-if factor if Rangers were to be drawn at Celtic Park for a similar fixture in seasons to come. And the understanding is that it generally will be reciprocated and Rangers will get that sort of allocation back at Parkhead should that happen. Obviously, Jonny, there has been a little bit of negativity online given this, and it's understandable when you see a lot of fans that are going to have to be moved. But there is the other side of this that means that it is a little bit of a dip back to the old days of the old allocation. Ross here saying that controversial maybe, but I prefer the old allocation. Makes for a cracking atmosphere like the old days. What are your initial thoughts on this move from both clubs?
Well, my initial thoughts are, let's go back to the 90s. Sorry for this long answer, but the reason that Rangers were in this situation regarding this whole Old Firm ticket allocation situation is because Rangers were so dominant back at that point. David Murray really didn't care when Parkhead was built at 60,000 and the discussions took place about the allocations. And Celtic got a better deal, straightforward as that. And you look at 7,000 tickets in a 60,000 seater stadium and 7,000 tickets in a 52,000 seater stadium, and it's not hard to see who's got the better deal there as a percentage of the stadium. Celtic. And if you look at the placement of the fans at Celtic, up in a corner, hidden away, and you look at them at Ibrox, right behind the goal, extraordinarily visible and impactful on what happens on the pitch. If you look at the actual fan experience, Parkhead is legendarily bad for fans. It's a long-term meme that you end up getting stuck behind steel pillars and you can't see the game. So for me, I have to be 100% honest and say, I think this is regrettable in terms of that scenario. I think Rangers have been disadvantaged by the decision-making process here. And I would like to think that they tried everything that they could to ensure that there was some sort of parity, as had been agreed with the league agreement, because I think that does get closer to a parity. For all the reasons I've just outlined. It is Rangers' point of view, as you've stated, Blair, that this was a situation where their hands were tied. But ultimately, Scottish football and the realpolitik, it's a nasty business. And sometimes you have to get your hands dirty. And sometimes you need to go into fight mode. And I think ultimately, you have to test the waters as to how far you can take that. And only Rangers themselves will know if they've taken that far enough. But my feeling is that those issues that I've outlined are issues that make this a difficult one for fans in general to swallow. And I totally understand those who find it difficult. But I also feel that if what Rangers are saying is absolutely correct and their hands are tied, then it's just a difficult one. It's a difficult circumstance. But don't think for a minute that Rangers are going to get their full percentage allocation that they've given to Celtic of the stadium, and don't think that they'll be anywhere but up and away in the bowels of the state, in the sort of the high area of the stadium where they can't have the same impact on events on the pitch in terms of the theatre and the wall of noise. So I think from Celtic's point of view, they'll look at that and say, we've played a blinder here.
Just before we continue on this discussion, obviously in real time, Danny Röhl's press conference happening right now. I'm bringing some updates as they happen. He's been speaking to the press, saying that there are some injuries in the team and they would expect some changes on Sunday without going into detail. So we'll pick back up on that in a wee minute just after we talk a little bit more about these allocation. But yeah, Danny Röhl saying that there will be some changes to that team to face Livingston on Sunday. Just back to the tickets story, Stevie, as Jonny touched on there, it does seem from a completely objective point of view, it does seem like Celtic have got the better end of this deal here. Just when you look at the geography of the stadium, you look at when you turn up at Ibrox and Celtic are taking over the entire Broomloan, then they really seem to have an advantage if they're shooting towards a full stand of fans. Whereas you go to Celtic Park, we know what it's like sitting in that away end. It's hard to make your presence felt when you're in a tiny corner, and even when it is expanded out a little bit, it's not quite the same as shooting to fans behind the goal. Do you think that the club should be pushing more to try and even up that disparity somewhat?
Honestly, I don't it's all to do with policing and security and where they can be put. I mean, I just don't see what the club can really do, to be honest. We're lucky that we've got good access to our stadium, and that's the away end. So, listen, I don't honestly overthink it when it comes to that. Rangers, if we are in that corner, we make ourselves heard. We have done the last couple of trips here where we've won twice. So, as I said to you, it's our job on the pitch to make sure that when they do come for the cup game and they have a full Broomloan, that they're silenced. So I don't think there's much else to the club. I would like to think the club are being strong. I would like to think that Jim Gillespie coming into the role would know the landscape, and when he does take over and things, that he'll be acting on that. So honestly, I don't think there's much that the club can do. They can be strong on it, but we demand that you give us a stand behind the goals. They say no. What happens after that? There's not.
It's been a complicated issue for so long.
Yeah,
there's no doubt about it, Stevie, and there's been so much back and forth and to and fro, and it's important to stress you're absolutely spot on about, this is the art of what's possible, and very, very difficult with the policing and all the other elements that come into play here. And it's a Scottish Cup tie, so it's unusual. I mean, how often do we get Rangers and Celtic in the Scottish Cup before the semi-finals? Doesn't happen all that often. But I think it's fair to air the concerns, and it's fair to say that they are valid concerns, while also saying, and I think Stevie's right, Celtic are in a bad place at the moment. Rangers should feel confident regardless, given where they are, and ultimately it's not going to make or break the game. There's a little advantage, I think, for Celtic in the way that their stadium is set up, but let's not pretend that this is going to be a major issue that requires 30 minutes of discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. Keep your comments coming in on that. We'll, of course, keep you updated with Danny Rule and everything that he has to say at his press conference. As we brought you a couple of minutes ago, he did say there will be changes to the team against Livingston, but didn't quite go into detail about who will be playing. One man that may or may not be in the starting 11 on Sunday is John Souttar, and he signed a new contract at Rangers yesterday, penning a new deal until 2027. Rangers do have the option to put another year onto that after that contract, and he spoke yesterday after signing that deal. He said, I've always made it clear that I wanted to stay. These things can take time, and they did, but thankfully in the end it's all been sorted. I understand the privilege, the position I'm in, the privilege it is to play here, the demands it is to play here. I'm excited as well because it's obviously a good period to be involved with Rangers, with the takeover and how we're doing just now with the management team coming in. I think we're just at a start. Obviously the owners have to come in with new ideas, the managers come in with his own ideas, and we've started to get some big results. We're probably just getting over the line in a few games when the manager first came in, but now you can see the performances improving. The performance against Hearts was really good, and we're building. Obviously the good result away to Celtic, and now we're into the nitty-gritty part of the season. It's important that we just keep going and keep these results coming. The 29-year-old, he's featured 33 times this season for Rangers. He's really been a mainstay of Danny Rule's defence. Stevie, good news that John Souttar is signed up for a little bit longer term for you?
It's good news when he plays well, and I believe that when on his game, I think John Souttar's a good player for us. He's obviously Scottish. He's got that coefficient bonus, but he's had a bit of an up and down season. Is that fair to say? I think he's been better since he's come back, but he's not without mistakes and stuff like that. Am I pleased he's staying? Yeah, I am, because there's a lot of work to be done on the defence next year. So him and Fernandez, we need to add to that. We do need some more centre-back coverage. Cornelius and Giga will go back on loan unless we decide to make those permanent. I'd be surprised. So we do need reinforcements in there. So with John Souttar staying, then that makes sense, I suppose, from that point of view. But it's a bit like, I like him, but he's not he's not infallible. I think it's the point. Like, he does, could he have done better last week for Braggus header and stuff like that? I think probably could. So I'm pleased he's staying from the point of view that we keep him and we don't lose him for nothing and things like that. And I think the length of contract with the option is sensible as well.
I'll just get a couple of comments here before I come to Johnny. Hugh here saying, brilliant big Souttar. One here says, Souttar is okay as a backup defender, but we need to buy better in the summer. Another saying here, Souttar is fine as a backup, but we need better. And Gaz Jones here saying, Souttar signing a deal is good from a squad depth point of view. Johnny, the overarching kind of feeling in the comments then seems to be that John Souttar is a good addition to be part of the squad. He's a good addition to have around, as Stevie outlined in terms of the coefficient. He is also one of the more senior members in that dressing room, so it's always good to hang on to those. Scotland International, all these things that you can tick off about John Souttar. But if Rangers really have designs on taking this squad to the next level, and importantly taking the first team to the next level, maybe John Souttar is one to have in and around the squad rather than just being a starter next season. And I personally think that Rangers should be going out and targeting another centre half this summer to play alongside Emmanuel Fernandez as your sort of starting two for me.
Yeah, if we're playing Football Manager, I totally agree with you. I think you want to have someone who's a really, really solid operator, experience next to Fernandez, who can bring him on and provide that real level of consistency and solidity over a long period. I actually think John Souttar, and I said this yesterday and I'll say it again, Blair, I think John Souttar's a really good player with some really good attributes. The problem is he's got a brain fart in him. He's got the propensity to make a mistake or switch off and for it to cost Rangers. And that's especially true, I think, in games where you're going forward a lot and you're not maybe having to be as defensive minded, you're not having to be as switched on for the whole 90, and then occasionally you just have a lapse in concentration. That's why people say, oh, well, he's a good siege defender, but then you see mistakes in other games. But I like Souttar. I've always said the same thing. I'm not going to roll back now. I think it's a good deal to sign him up for the length of time they've signed him up. I think it gives the club a bit of flexibility and allows them to give them that level of confidence that in building the defence for the years ahead in the summer, given the amount of players that are only at Rangers at the moment on loan, you've got a cornerstone there who you can rely on to be reasonably solid for most of the time. I think John Souttar would benefit from being more of a squad rotation player. I don't think, if you look at his injury history, he's a guy that you would feel confident about throwing in for 50 or 55 games a season. I don't think that would be right. So I think you'll get better out of John Souttar. I think you'll get more consistency. I think you'll get a less injury-prone John Souttar, although to be fair, in the last couple of years, injury-wise, he's been okay. If you have him as a guy who isn't under pressure to be the main man all the time, I've always said, if John Souttar's one of your four defenders, I'm totally comfortable with that. Rangers need Scots. There's a Scot. I would argue, alongside maybe McKenna, he's the best defender that Scotland have. So you want him in that Rangers squad. But Blair, I do agree with you. You can do better than that. Absolutely, you can. But that it's not always as easy as that. Players don't always settle. You can be a good player and come into Glasgow Rangers Football Club and it doesn't work out for you. So having someone like John Souttar there, I think, is a good insurance policy. He's reliable. And like I say, I just think it's a smart move by Danny Rall and the club.
John agreeing with me here. Big John has a mistake in him, but who doesn't? He's very underrated. A fan of John Souttar there. Stevie, just mentioning his, touching on his centre-back partner, Manny Fernandez. I've been a big fan of him this season. Obviously, he too does have a mistake in him. He's still very raw, but we've seen the attributes that he has this year. There's obviously been a lot of rumours circulating in terms of his future, both internationally and both club-wise. Would it surprise you to see the club maybe be braced for a bit of transfer activity round about him in the summer? And is he one that you'd be looking to build around? Or if there's good money on the table for a guy who has proven an asset in both boxes, would you be saying cash in and rebuild that defence again?
just depends what the money is, wouldn't it? I think that stands for everyone at the club. I think if the money's right, then you will move on. But what we have seen through bids for Chermiti and Gassama is that it's going to have to be big money for Rangers to consider it. So Manny Fernandez is doing fine at the moment. He does have a moment in him, as we've seen last week against Hearts. He needs to be better with the ball. He needs to be quicker. It takes too long. That leads to issues. Defensively, he seems to be okay. Doesn't make many mistakes defensively. He has the odd mistake, as we've seen in Europe with the header, but defensively, touchwood, he's been okay. It's with the ball that's the most problem. So, look, Manny Fernandez is doing fine. Would I want to build things around him? Would depend if he kept progressing. So, it's like that, he seems to have an okay partnership with Souttar. So, I'm quite comfortable. I wouldn't want to put too much pressure on him. I wouldn't want to say, yeah, there's your number 4, your cornerstone for years to come. If Arsenal, Chelsea, Dortmund and things are looking at him, then the price has got to be right for Rangers. And that would be way more than what we had bid for Chermiti and things like that, allegedly. So it would take big money for me. And I think it would take big money for the club to think about cashing him in. But what it is good is that Rangers are starting to get those assets in the team. They're starting to get people, watching and being interested in our players, which is good for the club and it's good for us. So I don't think there's a downside to that. I think the main thing for Manny is that he keeps progressing the way he has been, keeps building, keeps getting better, because there's a lot to do. But he's doing just fine. So as far as I'm concerned, it's business as normal, and we carry on with Manny where he is.
A couple more lines coming out of Danny Rule's press conference this morning. Some lovely chat from Danny Rule, who is apparently comparing Ryan Naderi to Thomas Muller. I'm reliably informed, which is high praise indeed. He also says that Connor Barron will be back on the training pitch next week, so he could be back in contention. Jonny, Ryan Naderi, the new Thomas Muller, if he goes halfway to getting the career that man did, we might be on to a winner. But Connor Barron as well coming back into the fold. That midfield 3 of Diamande, Chukwueze and Nico Raskin. There's been a lot of debate about the competition for those 2 places. Do you think Connor Barron can force his way back in there when he gets back up to fitness?
Well, Connor Barron was excellent before his injury, and you'd have to think that a Connor Barron playing like that would put pressure on. And that's what a club like Rangers needs. You need that pressure for places. You need that competition, that cutthroat notion that if you perform badly, you're going to be out. So you have to absolutely welcome him. What he does is he brings you that passion, that energy, that drive. And every midfield in the world looks for those elements. So Connor Barron being back, I think, is a big positive. In terms of Naderi, that is high praise indeed. And I think what's interesting about that is we know that Thomas Muller was a kind of, not necessarily an out-and-out striker, was he? He was a guy who was very, very good in that kind of number 10 position, scoring goals, but not a guy that's leading the last line or a target man, but a very clever player. I think the Germans have a word for him. I can't remember what that word is, and if I could remember it, I wouldn't be able to pronounce it. But the English translation is interpreter of space. And that's how Muller was seen. A guy who was able to drift into positions that really, really hurt teams. And I've kind of been thinking of Naderi as more of a target man, but that actually suggests there's more to his game. And maybe he'll be the one that's slightly withdrawn if they're playing a front 2 with Chermiti or maybe even Miovski. So really interesting, those comments, and I look forward to seeing the actual quotes as they come through, because perhaps that does give you a sense of what Naderi can become and what he can evolve into.
Yeah, he's almost like a sort of 9.5. That he's not quite that centre forward, but he does he likes to drift. From what I've seen so far, he looks like a very clever player on the ball, and I think that is one of the big things you could always say about Thomas Muller. He was an incredibly intelligent player. I think it was Thierry Henry that once said, if you want to ask me how to go and play football, I told children to go and watch Thomas Muller to see how he picks up space on the park. In terms of just how Naderi started his Rangers career, Stevie, I've been pretty impressed. I think a lot of people round about Ibrox have. Is he one that's impressed you so far? And do you buy this, that he might not be the sort of target man, but might be a little bit more utilised as just off a big striker?
Yeah, I'm keen not to put any kind of labels on him or anything. I just think he started really well. I think he immediately passed the eye test for me, and he looked good. So I was quite happy with him. I'm quite happy with the 4 signings, actually. I think Two Romans has looked smashing at left back. I think Big Chuck Lanny's doing good in midfield, and there's more to come from Skov Olsen. You've seen that touch of quality last week from him. So more than happy with the business we've done, more than happy with how Ryan Naderi looks. Does he look like he's going to have a good career here? Yes, I think he does, and I think he started really well. So I'm just keen for him just to progress at his rate. We don't need to put pressure on him by saying or comparing him. The best thing that we can do is hope that he does the business for Rangers, and that's all I really want from him. And I think he is. I think he is a good player. Like, I really like the look of him.
Stevie, is that you taking issue with your pal Danny Roll?
No, Danny being my best friend, is free to say what he wants. But I'm a bit, I'm a bit more grounded in that. I'm quite happy for others to talk about him, but from my point of view, I just want to see him continue and progress the way he has been. It's the same with Big Chermiti. He scored a hat-trick last week, and that's great. But the challenge for him now is, can he follow up on Sunday? So, because he scored 2 at Parkhead, and we waited 6 weeks for his next, so he needs to follow it up. So I'm just keen for us to stay grounded, very much like we are in the title race. It's one game at a time for me, and we are capable. We can do it, but let's just take it one game at a time. There's no point in looking further ahead. There's no point in looking to Celtic. Let's deal with Livingston first, which will be tricky, and then go from there. And with Ryan Naderi, it's just one game at a time, very much like it is with Fernandez and Souttar and everybody else. We do one game at a time. We get the players through it. We keep building their performances and their confidence, and we keep growing as a squad, which I feel we have.
Before we go, Stevie, obviously you touched on that game against Livingston on Sunday. One, are you going to the game on Sunday? Will you be in those packed out away end? And also, it's certain to be a different atmosphere than the last time Rangers went to Livingston. Of course, that was their first win in the league when Max Aarons scored that late goal. But almost instantly when that goal went in, the fans turned their ire back towards Russell Martin. And I thought that was a really pivotal point in the early part of this season to show just where the fans were in terms of mentality. So it's going to be completely different this time around, but equally as important in terms of picking up points in this title charge.
Yeah, I was there at the first one, and I'll be there again on Sunday. So yeah, looking forward to it. Always do. And yeah, just need to just go and win the game. I don't care how it looks. I don't really, I could do it a last minute one, but if we can build on recent performances, I think confidence will be high. We've had a week to prepare for it. There is a few injuries, as the boss said this morning, so we just need to wait and see what that looks like. But you've got a squad there that's comfortable and able to go and do it. So let's just go and win the game first and foremost. We'll let everybody else take care of themselves and keep the pressure on. And I think the thing with Rangers is that that this is a key part for us now. And if we look after ourselves, then we'll get the rewards for it. And that's all we should be concentrating on.
Absolutely. Well said, Stevie. A wonderful way to close out the week. Well, that'll do us for this morning. Of course, as you mentioned earlier in the show, the Rangers Review live show tickets are available for pre-sale to subscribers to the website. Keep an eye out on our social medias for the links to that. There's also a link in the YouTube bio as well. If you want to go and buy your pre-sale tickets, they'll go on general sale next week. We are playing Edmundston House, and I'm thoroughly looking forward to it. Keep your eyes peeled tomorrow morning as well, when Chris will have an exclusive interview with Gary Ralston. That'll be in place of our usual tactics show on the Saturday morning. It is well worth a watch, well worthy of your time. I really do recommend you go and give that a watch tomorrow morning. But for now, thank you so much to Jonny for joining me. Thank you to Stevie for joining me this Friday morning, and to everybody in the comments, thanks for watching and thanks for listening.